The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now. Get you a deposit bonus of up to $250. Rocket Mortgage Classic from Detroit Golf and Country Club, an amalgamation of the two courses of the Donald Ross designs on the property. A field of 156 players, top 65, and ties will make the cut. In full disclosure, you should smash the like to this episode. But honestly, I'm away right now, so I'm filming this show and recording it a week in advance, so I don't actually have the official field in front of me. So when I go through the research on Fantasy National, we'll have to make some educated guesses and use the season-long planner that we have to find out the bigger names that have already committed to the Rocket Mortgage. Obviously, Ricky, the defending champion and sponsored by Rocket Mortgage, is going to be playing, but we'll find out who some of the other ones who had previously committed are playing already, but we can almost expect that it's the C and D tier of the PGA Tour. Thinking about, you had the Canadian Open, which a lot of the top European stars played in 4 weeks ago. Then an elevated signature event at Memorial, which everyone played in. The US Open, which everyone played in. The Travelers, which you're probably watching right now, that everyone has played in. So I think before the guys go overseas to Scotland in the Open Championship, there might be a bit of a 2-week pause on a lot of people for Detroit and the John Deere Classic next week. So shout out to Tambo, who was at the Rocket Mortgage Classic this week playing for the Fantasy Golf World Championships. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be back tomorrow live in studio, I think, with Jeff Feinberg, or it'll be 2 days from now with Jeff Feinberg on Tuesday in studio to go over all of the bets for the Rocket Mortgage and all of that fun stuff that goes along with it. Custies, I think, are coming this week too. Or they're already out. See, this is how well I plan in advance. It all depends on when I get back, but I wanted to make sure that I had a quick preview show for everyone just to get them ready. I know that people rely on this show to learn a little bit about the course, then dig into what they want to do and try to hit those early lines, depending on if we can find some sleepers in this field. So let's jump over to the course right now. Detroit Golf and Country Club in, guess it, Detroit, Michigan. As I pointed out before, the course at Detroit Golf Club is an amalgamation of both the South and North course. There's been some rerouting for the tournament, including a hole from the South course. The South's first hole will function as the tournament's third hole. We played from the North course's first tee box, a lot like Oakdale for the Canadian Open at Jeff's course a while ago, because there's 27 holes on that property, and they just mashed it into 18. Meanwhile, the regular 8th and 9th holes will be number 1 and 2. For the tournament at the South course. So just the more you know, not that it really makes that much of a difference to what we're doing in trying to play it out. It's going to be the same routing as it's been every year this tournament has been in existence, and it first started in 2019. More on that in a second, because that was a cluster expletive, let's say, for all of you people who really hate when I swear. It's weird. You know, this is a show that's rated R. Rated R for real good, but also expletive commentary from time to time. It's most generous courses on the PGA Tour off the tee. The field has hit over 50% of its drives, over 300 yards at Detroit Golf Club, while finding the short grass at over a 65% clip. Unsurprisingly, this is where Bryson tested out the strategy that resulted in him hoisting the cleverly named US Open trophy later on in 2020. Bryson became the first PGA Tour winner ever to lead the field in strokes gained off the tee, 6.7 that year, and strokes gained putting, 7.8 during the ShotLink era. And yes, Bryson also led in driving distance that year at 351. It's unclear whether or not that strategy would hold up or if it was just like a Bryson type of thing, but it seems to be more of just a Bryson type of thing, although that is one strategy that you can get by. In the 2 years since, driving has proved to play a major role in success at the top, that and putting, but no one has quite done it to such an exaggerated level than Bryson did that year. And despite being 7,370 yards in total, Detroit Golf Club is actually much shorter than that. I talk about Riviera every single year about having hidden distance because of the elevation changes and a lot of the yardages saved on one of the par 4s and a really short par 5. But Detroit Golf Club is kind of the opposite. There are 4 par 4s measuring between 450 and 500 yards. But since the average driving distance is over 300 yards, those holes don't really play long. at all. Add on 3 of the par 4s, which can't protect themselves from eagles, and you have an average approach distribution that resembles the Travelers from this week. A course that came in at just over 6,800 yards. The majority of approaches are going to be coming from 175 yards and in. That is scoring time, hence why the winning score has been well into the minus 20s almost every single year of this course's existence. Easier courses allow more of the field to challenge for a win because you can ride a hot putter. There's a reason that the U.S. Open leaderboard is generally the who's who of the elite names. Well, you have the Byron Nelson, where anyone can, where I guess unless you're K.H. Lee, who's won it twice, but you just have random dudes who end up winning there. So using Fantasy Nationals, easy relative to par scoring over the past 24 rounds, you will find... More on that a little bit later on. And there's going to be plenty of birdie streaks at this course as well, but not many of them are going to bridge either of the 9. Holes 9 and 11 are tough par 3s. I mentioned both above, like carrying a birdie or better rate of under 12.5%. As I kind of point out, the average distance on the par 3s this week is 192 yards. The 2 longest par 3s come in that 3-hole stretch. Both are among the 4 toughest holes on the course and carry a bogey or worse rate of over 17%. That's like the one challenge that this course is going to present. Number 11, the par 3, 233 yards is the most difficult on the course. The second most difficult is actually the closing hole, number 18, and it only plays 455 yards, but has a bogey or worse rate of over 20% on that one. Yeah, number 11 has a bogey or worse rate of 23%. It's pretty high for a course where you're going to see a winner of minus 24, minus 26, or something ludicrous like that. Cam Davis won in 2021 at minus 18. That was like the difficult year. And he ended up chipping in, holding out a bunker shot on 17 in order to clear that win when it looked like he was absolutely dead to rights. I pointed out 7,370 yards, par 72, bent grass with POA mixed in, similar to what we see at TPC River Highlands this week. 87 bunkers with 1 hole that has water in play. The par 4s, the average distance is 429 yards. It's a variety of par 4. The course has 5 of them checking in under 400 yards and 4 that measure over 450 yards, the par 5s. And we'll take a look over at Fantasy National right now. And you can see the par 5s, like, you got to beat these guys up. And that's where the distance really comes into play in the driving. You know, the 635, you don't see a whole bunch of eagles on that, but people still birdie it at a 32% clip. Bogey percentage of around 7%. Number 17, the par 5, is the easiest hole on the course. Eagle rate of 2.5%. Birdie rate 50%. Number 14 as a part of the 313 challenge, I think. I think that's the one. It's the 313 challenge. I think it's 14, 15, and 16. Let me see how the routing works for this. Yeah, that's 13, 14. No, yeah. Anyway, there's the 313 area code where if you go 3 and then, yeah, it's 3 eagle, hole in 1, birdie on 16. You win like $1 million or something like that for charity. Either way, I don't think anyone's ever done it, so that's tough seeing. Eagle, hole in 1, back-to-back holes is something you're not going to find too often. But number 14 has a 2% eagle rate. Number 7 has a 2.5% eagle rate. All the birdie or better rates are 40% or higher on the 3 of the easier par 5, so we got to find the guys that are going to beat them up. Let's take a look back at, let's kind of take a look at easy putting, approach. Driving is a little bit down to the top 10 finishers, but gets higher the more that you work yourself up on the leaderboard. And when you take a look at the winners, you'll see that driving has meant a lot along with putting. You can't have like bad approach play. It doesn't need to be out of this world good as it is at some other places. And almost identical to what we saw at the Travelers, you have some of the longer, obviously the par 5s are going to have 200 plus proximity distance. And those longer par 3s, those are going to count as 200 plus approach shots. On not those holes, it's just wedges everywhere. Can you hit some awesome wedges? Can you make some putts? That's what we're going to have to find out this week. The cut line a year ago was -3, -2, -2, -4, -4 before that in the 5 years of this tournament's existence. Over 65% driving accuracy, 72% greens and regulation percentages. And I pointed this out on the Traveler show, and I've mentioned it before, the 2 weeks before, of trying to hit those underdog props on either fairways hit or even greens and regulation hires this time around. So 72% on 18 holes is going to be, that's not right, 0.72 times 18 is around 13. So 13 13 is going to be the average over-under for greens and regulation hit at Detroit Golf Club amongst the field. So the best time to always attack these underdog props are the moment they open. It's usually right around the tee times, which is Tuesday afternoon. And if you see the numbers come in around 13, if you find some 12.5s or hell, even 13.5s on players that generally are good with their irons and hit a lot of greens and regulation, it's not going to be the strongest field, so you're probably not going to have a bevy of options because there's so few big names expected to be at this tournament. But anything 13 or over, or under, or even 13.5 or under, play the higher on those. And if the driving accuracy ones come in lower too, who cares? Just go the higher on those. If it's 9, 8.5 or 9, go higher. Greens and regulation, go higher. And if they're overweighted, then you can kind of go the other way as well and play the unders on those. But that's what I would be looking at to try to take advantage of the underdog props this week. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy will get you that deposit bonus of $200, $250 if you haven't seen that yet. Scrambling percentage higher than usual. 3-putt about average driving distance 296, but amongst guys that makes the cut, it's over 300 yards. So very easy course. Can your guys score enough? That's what we're going to be looking at. Take a look at last year's leaderboard. The 2023 Rocket Mortgage Classic was a 3-way playoff. Ricky Fowler had been building towards this all season. We hit the outright on him. He wins in the playoff from the mud against Adam Hadwin and Colin Morikawa. Taylor Moore and the Glove were just outside of the playoff, along with Custy Pete, Peter Quest. Shank was there as well. Interesting to see that guys had played well at what the hell tournament was it? Valspar earlier that year. Hadwin has won the Valspar. Taylor Moore has won the Valspar. Adam Shank lost to Taylor Moore 2 years ago at the Valspar. So interesting of that note to kind of take a look at some of these guys. But that's how they did it in terms of the scorecard. If we take a look at the strokes gained to figure out how guys got it done, only Chris Kirk, the only guy, he and Troy Merritt, inside the top 20 that lost strokes putting. And look at the top of this leaderboard. 4.5, 9.8 for Hadwin, 3.4 for Morikawa, 9.9 for Taylor Moore, 5.4 for Lucas Glover. That was the beginning of his resurgence, which would lead to 2 wins later on in the season. 3.7, 3.5, 3.7, 2.8, 2.3, 5, 3.8. 6.2. If Noren plays in this, then it might be actually a Noren week to go to. He's had some success at this tournament over the years. But it's kind of funny to look at how these guys all do it. Like, if you're not making your putts, you're absolutely screwed. So last year, Hadwin lost a ton off the tee, but gained a ton on approach and made up the rest with putting. Last year, that like bomb and gouge was a little bit less effective than it had been in other years, and was more approach leaning this year. So maybe it depends on the quality of player in the field, honestly, if that's a way that we're going to try to locate this. So let's go back to 2022. Finau won by 5 over Cantley, Pendrith, and Cam Young. He was tied for the lead after Thursday after shooting a 64. He had 4 rounds of 67 or better, so he was 5 under every day or better. 3 of the top 4 off the tee. You can see, so this was a bomb and gouge type year, even though the approach had played well too, but 5.8, 3.1, 3.5, 5.3 off the tee gets it done. Wyndham Clark had 5. He came inside the top 10 as well, coming T8 and losing strokes on approach for that week. But everyone gained in putting inside the top 10. Only Wyndham Clark didn't gain on approach. Only JJ Spawn didn't game off the tee. So you're going to need somewhat of an overall balanced game. So this is the second time that we've seen Steven Yeager pop up. I believe Tom Kim is playing in the tournament this week. So another interesting guy to look at for the Rocket Mortgage. We'll take a look at some of the bigger names that have committed here in a second. There's probably like 3 of them using the tool on Fantasy National to figure that out. But again, we just kind of keep going back over time. We see the same things of players who have done well and how that they have done it. Cam Davis ran down poor. I had a Neiman and Kokrak ticket this year. Kokrak ended up, I think, doubling the last to really fall out of it. Dude couldn't make the putt. Jason Kokrak, he and Keegan Bradley were the only 2 players inside the top 20 who lost strokes putting. Yeah, that's just how it's going to go. Neiman gained a ton off the tee. Cam Davis didn't, but he chipped in a bunch, and he made a ton of putts. You see, Troy Merritt made a ton of putts. Noren, so there's another one inside the top 5 for Alex Noren, so we've seen him pop up a few times here. Chris Kirk is another one we've seen pop up a few times here, and granted, they should. They've been some of the better players in this field, but this year, it was mainly like short game and just overall balance, but you see 2.7 off the tee, 3.2, 3.2, 3.4 for some of the bigger hitters. That's how they were able to get it done. And this was the middle of Hammer and Hank Lebiota's run. He had like 4 awesome tournaments in a row, and then he was never heard from again. This was the year I was talking about, though, 2019. Nate Lashley won this year. He was the wire-to-wire winner. He was the first-round leader with the 63, and he ended up winning by 6 over Doc Redman, Rory Sabatini, Wes Roach. It wasn't a great year for this tournament, the inaugural event. But the funny part was Nate Lashley was not included in the first-round leader market and was not included on all of the sites in terms of outright betting odds because he was a Monday qualifier for this event. He wasn't in the DraftKings system that week, so you couldn't take him on DraftKings, which is absolutely nuts to think about. Just very funny to think about it in those terms that you had this guy, he wasn't involved in any of the winning lineups. So, and it was funny because he won by 6, that it was just everyone else in the tournament. JJ Spawn's another one. You see his name pop up a few times here. I wonder if he'll be playing this week. That's going to be the difficult part of the breakdown, so I won't get too big into it this week because I don't know exactly who is playing. So we'll go past 24 rounds, just take a look at the SG history in terms of total. The Pat Mayo Experience is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes you need to get something off your chest. Lord knows I do. And one of the biggest things that can cause is big stressors in our life. Whether they're big or they're small, bottling it all up can really start to affect us very negatively. And therapy is a safe space to get things off your chest and figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. And it's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries and really start to affect your life in a positive way. And it might even be some stuff that you're not even really thinking about that you can unlock and really start to improve your life for the better. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge if you're not liking it. So, get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/PatMayo today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PatMayo. As I don't have the field list, I'll just go to Fantasy National, all PGA Tour players, and try to figure it out this way. We'll go Detroit Golf Club, apply the course filter, and just go average strokes gained total to see who has played the best here and might be playing again. Maybe we'll get Taylor Moore, maybe not, but he was 4th on this list. Pendrith, he's inside the top 5. Rye is 6th. Crazy Carl Wan in his 4 rounds has played great. Jaeger has played 10 rounds here and is averaging over 2 strokes total per round. Marty Doe, Justin Lauer, he's probably most definitely playing in 8 rounds, 1.74 strokes gained total per. I mentioned Chris Kirk a little bit earlier. He's up there in 16 rounds, has played this very well. Don't think Finau will commit. There's Horschel, Noren, and Hadwin and Merritt have all played it well. I said Tom Kim is playing. He's in this field. In his 6 rounds, he's doing quite well. JJ Spawn, MJ Duffy, Vince Norman, Lucas Glover, Callum Tarrant, and JT Poston, who we probably should see in this field. Hayden Buck, he's there. He loves to fuck, and he loves playing well at Detroit Golf Club. How does Lee Hodges play here? Lee Hodges seems like a goober who would be in this tournament. So he has 6 rounds, nothing great. We'll see how he's done at the Rocket Mortgage in his career. 44th and a miscut. Okay, so not great, Bob, from Lee Hodges, but he'd just been playing a little bit better coming in. And that's probably the way that you want to tackle this outside of some of the... I'll run the stat model here for it in a minute, but I just want to take a look at the course history and see some of the guys who have played this course well year over year. We take a look at putting. Lauer, Moore, Hadwin, Wan, MJ Duffy, Nicholas Lindheim, Mav McNeely putts really well here. No shocker, he putts well everywhere. And we juxtapose that with Tita Green, who has done the best. Morikawa, probably not playing. Callum Tarrant, Aaron Rye, Jaeger, Henley, Taylor Moore. Kuchar has done really well, Tita Green here. Only 2 rounds, but he missed the cut because he lost an average of 2 strokes putting per round. Nice work, Matt. Vince Norman, Tita Green, great here. Chuck Hoffman, Tita Green, great here. Same as Ryan Palmer. Troy Merritt, Chris Kirk, Svensson. Maybe Svensson's kind of a look here because he'll likely be in the tournament. Lonto, over a stroke T degree per round and a little bit of a loss on putting. That's kind of been his MO lately. Just the ball striking has been really good. The putting has been atrocious for him. Yeah, you can see it. He's only lost in the ball striking categories. He's only lost once in his past 5 starts. That was off the tee at the Byron Nelson. But the approach play has just been absolute fire. But dude cannot putt to save his life right now. So let's try to scroll up to see if we can find out who's actually going to be in this field. If you use this tab at the top of Fantasy Nationals, the season-long planner, and you can find out some of the bigger names that have actually made commitments to a lot of these tournaments that we're going to be looking at. So we'll sort by Rocket Mortgage right here and kind of take a scroll down the list. Now, a lot of guys have committed to John Deere from the bottom end, and I would assume most of them are going to be playing because there's no alt event for the Traveler. So it's a week off for most people, and frankly, it's a week off for most of the guys who didn't qualify for the U.S. Open anyway, who will probably be playing in this tournament. So none of these names are playing right now. Keep scrolling. Got to find some green checks on this list somewhere. Eventually, Ricky Fowler will probably end up being the first guy. So we keep scrolling. There we go. Yeah, there's Ricky Fowler. He has committed to the Rocket Mortgage Classic. He'll probably be one of the betting favorites, at least inside of the top 5. Anyone else? Jeez, poor Detroit. Really getting squeezed on that. Tom Kim. There we are. Yeah, so Tom Kim, I can recall him committing to playing. He's just playing a lot of golf right now. I think he's played each of the past 5 events, including the U.S. Open. If he ended up WDing from this, I wouldn't be super stunned. Looks like he's taking the week off at John Deere, then Genesis and the Open Championship he'll be going into. Anyone else for Detroit? Man. Oh, there we are. There's someone. Taylor Moore is playing. Okay. And we just saw he had great success at this course over the years. And that's going to kind of be, these guys in the faded were guys that played in this tournament last year. So if they're kind of on the bottom end, then they're probably going to end up playing. Straka played in it last year. We probably won't see him because he is so far up in the world rankings right now that he probably doesn't need to play it. Will Zalatoris has committed to playing in the Rocket Mortgage Classic. So the big 4 in the tournament this year are Ricky Fowler, Will Zalatoris, Tom Kim, and Taylor Moore. Yikes. That might be the worst field that we get so far this year. So let's take a look at the model that I had built out, and we'll leave it at that. Just, I want to get you out of here, have some good vibes for Detroit, and tell you what you need to know. Do I have Detroit Golf Club? No, I got to go to Manage Models. I thought I had turned it on before the show because, I try to plan sometimes. I do have it turned on. Was it not there? And I just didn't see it. There it is at the top. Of course, D for Detroit would be at the top. So past 24 rounds, overall stat model coming in, and this includes all of the players in the field. I will click off of Detroit. I was like, why is Scotty Scheffler 134th? It's because he's never played this event. He would be number 1 in this if that was the case. So now we need to really scroll down to find some guys that might be playing in this field. Keith Mitchell might be playing. He's 4th. Hoagie and Kraft and Rye and might be playing. They're 7, 8, and 9 in the overall model. If you want to see what it is, I have it up right here. Eagles gain 5%, par 5s 5%. I split those up. Par 4s 350 to 400, 10%. Opportunities gain 10%. Ball striking 5, approach 15, off the tee 20%, putting 8 and 7% from 5 to 10, 10 to 15, short proximity 5 and 5, opportunities gain 10, and putting overall at 5. So we'll keep going to see who does pretty well here down the list. EVR may play, he's 17th. Glover may play, he is 18th. Lonto is 19th overall here. That's not bad. Damon is 22nd. Who else might be playing? Bud Cauley is 29th. Straka is 30th. Taylor Moore is playing. He's 32nd. Adam Schenk is 34th. The Eagles aren't good. The approach isn't good. But the proximity from 50 to 100, very good. And he's putting really well right now. So that's good to see. Ben Griffin, most likely playing. He's 35th. Probably not going to see Bez. Vegas, maybe. Kevin Roy is 42nd. If he ends up playing, Tom Kim is 43rd. So when the field gets reset and we can only see the players, obviously John Rahm isn't going to be in this field, that he'll rate out really highly, as will former winner Nate Lashley. Mac Hughes may play. He's 50th. Hubbard, Ben Martin, Lauer. So Lauer had the good course history and rates out pretty well. Davis Thompson is probably going to play and probably be like 30 to 1. 61st. Hadley is 63rd. Brent the Tent Grant, 65th. Kevin, you can't putt, so that's a problem. But the ball striking is great. The off the tee is awesome. He's 70th. Bryce Garnett, Andrew Novak, Adam Svensson, who I had mentioned a little bit before. There's Lee Hodges. Who else? Seamus Power at 84th. Pendrith, if he ends up playing, is 88th. And this is of all players, by the way, including guys from Liv who ended up getting mixed into it. Chuck Hoffman is 87th. We saw him pop up on that tee to green historically, same as Lindheim. Had a very good strokes gain total here. He is 93rd if he ends up in the field. KH Lee, Ryan Moore. Harris English probably won't play. Maybe Luke List ends up playing. He's 101st. Been a real bad go for him coming in. So that's really what I'm looking at. Those are some of the names that pop out stats-wise. If you're just looking at straight off the tee of who can get it done here, Brent Grant, Keith Mitchell, MJ Duffy, who we saw with a lot of success, Kevin Yu, there he is again, Damon, Eckroat, McNeely. This sets up to actually be a pretty decent McNeely course. If McNeely could ever win, because we said, and his approach play has been a lot better recently too, that if he can, McNeely's kind of the jam here if he ends up playing, honestly. We know how much he can gain off the tee. We know how hot he can run his putter. If he just kind of keeps his around the green is always good. His approach can just be in this 2.9, 1.6 category. And we got a stew going for old Mav McNeely. So I would guess he's not playing these elevated events. He's probably not in the Open. Oh, no, he is in the Open because he got the spot at the Canadian Open, didn't he? Yeah, he got one of those qualifiers. This is a part of the Open qualification series as well, so keep that in mind when you're going through things. Taylor Moore rates out really well here in terms of off the tee. Carl Wan, very much the same way. We saw he had a good strokes gain total average per round at Detroit Country Club or Golf Club as well. Daniel Berger, that actually makes a lot of sense. He's not in anything, so why wouldn't he show up to try to get into the Open? Davis Thompson, again, 32nd off the tee. Sam Stevens, Gim, Shank. There's Shank again. He's 41st of all, and this is, again, all players, not just players in the Detroit field. Michael Thompson, I can't remember the last time I heard of him, so he's probably not playing. Colley, Piercy, Hubbard. Could be a nice breakthrough spot for Mark Hubbard or Andrew Novak, who was having a really good year. Things have gone south for him a little bit recently, but did rebound quite nicely at the Canadian Open. That'll be the last time he would have played before this. We saw his top 10 streak earlier in the season against weaker fields. Maybe he can pull off the same thing again. That's what I'll leave you for Detroit Country Club. Now that you know what to look at, now that it's Sunday, probably, and you're watching this, or Monday morning, all of the field has been loaded in to fantasynational.com. I'm not from the future, so I didn't have it when I recorded this a week ago, but fantasynational.com/Mayo will get you 20% off, and you can go apply all of these things or anything that you want to your stat models and check out all of the course history, everything like that. Get 20% off any of the memberships with fantasynational.com/Mayo. Smash the like while you're here. Tell some friends about the show. I'll be back tomorrow or Tuesday with the picks and bets, depending on how my flight comes back in from London. I hope that you're all having a great summer. I know I am. Go enjoy yourself from time to time. If you want to take a week off from the Rocket Mortgage, I don't blame you. I kind of am too. That will do it for me. Use code Mayo, Underdog Fantasy. All right? I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!